Dogman is a young, absent-minded athlete who struggles in school but excels in taekwondo. Since at his young age, he's already on the national team, fighting for a spot to go to the Olympics. There's also his best friend Youngman, who's always with him and has a special talent for identifying flavors. They are Choi Hera and Seol Hee, Dogman's two best friends. They've known each other since they were kids and basically grew up together. Hera has liked Dogman for a long time and he's attracted to her too, but neither dared to confess their feelings. So the years went by and that feeling turned into a simple but very good friendship as the years passed. Dogman, who was one of the greatest prospects in Taekwondo, had completely stopped practicing that sport and now works in pest control and extermination. Hera, who dreamed of becoming a well-known announcer, ended up working as a receptionist in a warehouse. Seol, who aspired to be a dedicated housewife, she ended up working in customer service, and Youngman, the snack lover, works at the same company, tasting and buying the food. One day, an old friend of Hera shows up, a friend whose boyfriend Hera had stolen. But according to her, that's all in the past, and she brags that she's getting married now. And her fiancé is a very successful doctor. She invites her to the wedding and boasts about how happy and successful she is now. But Hera counters, saying she has a boyfriend about to become a lawyer, and they'll get married after he graduates. But her boyfriend later calls to say he failed the entrance exam again. To clear his mind, he now wants to bike across Korea. She's upset and disappointed after supporting him for years and he still didn't pass. Meanwhile, we see how Dogman had a date, but he talks too much and makes the girl uncomfortable, who is a very successful woman. When she asks Dogman if he was really the Taekwondo champion, he says he never practiced it. She leaves, telling him she never wants to see him again. Disappointed, he visits Hera's warehouse. The door jams and he bumps into his friend. She is intrigued by him, asks Hera to introduce them, then wonders why Hera doesn't date him. Hera replies he's just so-so to her, and that if she thinks he's handsome, her boyfriend would drive her crazy. When night falls, Hera buys her boyfriend a bicycle so he can travel around Korea as he wished. But at home, she discovers her supposedly perfect boyfriend was cheating on her with an older woman. She hits him and confronts him about the time and money she wasted. Also, he cheated on her with an older woman who just owns a small restaurant. She interrupts, telling him her restaurant isn't that small. It turns out she's the queen of kimchi, so she gives Hera her money back and adds a little extra for the trouble. She also bought her boyfriend a bicycle and a car, which really disappointed Hera. When she wanted to leave, the bicycle wouldn't fit in the taxi, so her ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend had to carry it. He realizes that the woman was pregnant. While taking her home, they nearly hit Dogman. When they get out, Hera tells him everything. This enrages her, and she tries to hit him. But the lady intervenes and threatens to kill him if he touches her man. After the fight, Hera and Dogman go home, and before they arrive, he takes the opportunity to buy her a purse and a pair of shoes, since she had never bought things for herself because she saved all her money to support her boyfriend. The next day, Seolgi had packed Yugman's suitcase because he had to go on a business trip, but she had forgotten to pack her own luggage. They've been together for 6 years, and since no one at the office knew, they usually meet in secret. When Seolgi gets out of the elevator, she hears some girls saying that their friend likes Yugman. Then we see how Dogman had to go to a television show to replace an extra. When he's done, he runs into a former high school classmate, but the guy pretends not to notice and tries to ignore him. However, Dogman keeps insisting until he finally recognizes him. The joke goes too far, so he leaves. Later, Hera attends her friend's wedding despite not liking her, but the master of ceremonies hadn't arrived, and it seemed the wedding would be ruined since no one could replace her. But the bride recalls that Hera was skilled at public speaking and had a good voice. She asks her to pretend to be the master of ceremonies, offering her the prepared dress in return. Hera accepts because she loved the dress, and besides, it was an opportunity to be in front of the microphone since that had always been her dream. When she goes out, she does an excellent job. When she seemed about to say something bad about the bride, she stopped and only said good things. So everything turned out great. But during the party, several men had been captivated by her beauty. So they start flirting with her, but then they find out she wasn't the famous host. So they want to teach her a lesson. They make a bet, which is that the first one to take her home will get $1,000. But one of the men, whose name is Mubi, tells her the whole truth. That makes her very angry, and she wants to teach them a lesson because she felt very humiliated by these men and had called Dogman to come pick her up. When she finally comes out, she confronts all the men and starts hitting their cars. When she's done, she asks them who she really is, and they shouldn't worry about their cars as she'll cover the damages. A doctor gets upset and strikes her in front of Dogman, enraging him and triggering his killer instinct. Hera tells him to leave, but the doctor doesn't believe he's going to do anything to him. But Dogman can't control himself and gives him a real beating. After he's finished, he's arrested and the doctors charge him to send him to jail. His former master arrives and is surprised by his continued strength. They become even more outraged and tell them that there's no way they'll reach an agreement. Then, Hera is forced to threaten him and tells him that she will show the messages to his future wife. And if that's not enough, when he has children, she'll tell them about him. So they'll never be proud of their father. This scares him a lot, so he decides to drop the charges against Dogman. After they solve the problem, Hera urges him to pursue his dreams, realizing how good it feels to do what you love. That she should stop dating bad men and that she should go out with him instead. But Hera acts as if she didn't hear anything. In the morning, she brings breakfast and catches her as she's leaving the shower. And when they come face to face, a feeling comes over her, although it wasn't the same feeling for both of them. Later at work, she finds an expensive-looking gift from an unknown sender and decides not to open it. At lunch, Hiram, Dogman's ex, bothers her and says she saw him and misses him. Hera says she lost contact with him and doesn't know where he lives since he married and moved away long ago. Meanwhile, Seolji has to film a commercial, so she has to eat cherries and smile. When she sees a woman flirting with her boyfriend, she gets nervous and freezes. So Youngman rushes to help her. Since she doesn't respond, he gives her mouth-to-mouth. She wakes up. He gets upset and scolds everyone for the incident. On the other hand, she had found out that the announcer position was available, so she asks her superior to give her a chance. He agrees, and immediately calls Youngman so he can record her. He wants to have the first time she will be the store announcer recorded. When she finishes, she's so excited she starts dancing. At night, when she leaves work, we see someone is following her. And when she thinks she's about to be kidnapped, it turns out it was Movin, the doctor from the party. He had sent her the gift and was now following her to deliver it in person, since Hera hadn't opened it. Movin confesses to her that since that day he hasn't stopped thinking about her and he's madly in love. She thinks he's sweet because of all the attention he gives her. Movin asks her if she has a boyfriend. She answers no, so he asks her for a chance to get to know him and says he'll take care of the rest. At that moment, Dogman saw his master again and asked if he could earn money with martial arts. He tells him if that's all he wants, he should leave and never return. But Dogman insists he wants more, that he really has dreams and goals to achieve, but to reach them, he needs to make a lot of money. Meanwhile, Hera was so excited that she tells her father and sends him the recording of her first commercial. He's happy for her and celebrates with his friends. Hera meets Dogman, but he pretends to be asleep so he doesn't have to give her his seat. So she has to figure out a way to wake him up. When they get home, they start drinking. After Hera falls asleep, Dogman caresses her and says she has soft skin. She reacts, telling him not to touch her again because she's from the countryside. There, it means something else, but she doesn't realize it means something different for Dogman too. The next day, Hera finds out that they had hired a new announcer and her long-awaited dream had been ruined. So she asks them to interview both of them so they have the same opportunities. But in the bathroom, she hears the girl complaining to her boyfriend about not being hired. It turns out right away that her boyfriend was related to the manager and had promised her this position. When it's time for the interview, despite his efforts, he didn't have any chance because his rival is younger and had studied abroad. Lacking enough connections and disappointed, she returns to her workplace. Then Dogman arrives and comforts her, while she feels like her dreams are falling apart. Dogman's teacher invited him to watch a mixed martial arts fight that night. When he arrives, Dogman learns the main fight is against his former high school rival, Tatsu, and he's the main reason why he stopped practicing Taekwondo. Years ago, both reached the National Student Championship finals, with the winner advancing to the Olympics. He planned to win, but Tatsu offered him a lot of money to lose. At first, he refused, but during the match, he remembers that his younger sister needs an operation to be able to walk, and his parents don't have enough money for that operation. And when he sees her, he has no choice but to let himself lose. But he does it in such an obvious way that the judges notice, so they decide to cancel the fight. Dogman and Tatsu can no longer go to the Olympics. When the fight ends, his old rival Tatsu emerges from the Coliseum. He spots him among many journalists, recognizes him and asks why he came. He thinks he wants to ask him for money and blackmail him for what happened at school. Dogman says he's wrong and that he came because his teacher invited him. Tatsu doesn't believe him and gets aggressive, mocks his sister, and Dogman can't allow that. He decides to teach him a lesson, uses his famous spinning kick to knock him down, and tells him to use his moves correctly if he's going to use them. When his master leaves the stadium, they offer to buy the video from him, as his truck camera recorded everything. The master refuses to sell and uploads it online, where the video quickly goes viral. As he walks, Dogman reflects on his life and dislikes its direction. After defeating Tatsu, his passion for martial arts returns, and he quits his job to fully pursue what he loves. He goes to his master and tells him that he wants to become a professional fighter. His master, upon hearing this, gets even more excited than he does. On the other hand, Seolhee had a dinner with her co-workers. She is very good and kind. Too kind, that's why everyone takes advantage of her and makes her work extra. When she should be enjoying the dinner just like her co-workers, Yuman was also there. While she's in the bathroom, her boss says intern Yejin likes him, that he should give himself a chance with her, since she comes from a wealthy family and his whole life would be set. Back at the table, his boss mocks his girlfriend's outfit, so he hides her shoe in revenge. After dinner, Yejin offers him a ride home, but he declines, saying he has other things to do. Now we see Mubin taking him to his house, where she says he's very sweet and she feels comfortable with him. Suddenly, Duman arrives, hugs her, and says he quit his job to pursue his dreams. At that moment, Muvin gets out of the car, feeling jealous and ready to confront him. He tells him that from now on, he'll be dating her and doesn't want him hugging her again. That way, Yera tells him not to worry because nothing is going on between them. They're more like siblings. He tells her that's not true. They aren't like siblings, and he doesn't like her dating Mubin. He interrupts and tells her to accept the ramyun he promised. Duman says he'll tell his father if invited to eat at Mubin's house. So, Mubin makes a plan. He tells her he'll invite her to eat today. When he's about to take her, Duman says that he's hungry too, so in the end, the three of them go to eat together. On his way home, Youngman meets Seolhee and asks why she always wears her uniform. She says it's cheaper than changing clothes each time. Then, her boyfriend decides to buy her the prettiest dress in the store. But she wants to refuse it because it's too expensive and comes up with a bunch of excuses, so he won't buy it. In the end, he decides to buy it for her. Youngman criticizes her daily for dressing poorly, so she leaves upset. As she's feeling sorry for herself, Yane appears and offers to take her home. On the way, she tells him that pink is also her favorite color and tries to flirt with him. But Youngman doesn't play along and bluntly stops her. Meanwhile, Era confronts Duman for quitting his job and taking up a profession where he has to hit people and also get hit. She threatens him and tells him that she wants him to look for a new job tomorrow, and that she will find one for him herself. In the morning, Hiran had gone to Duman's house, according to her, to greet him. At that moment, Seolgi and Youngman catch her and quickly shout at Hira. But then tragedy strikes and Duman sees her again. Every time they broke up, she dated someone else, then always returned to Duman after those relationships ended. And he, just by seeing her, would accept and believe everything Hiran told him. He kicks her out, saying he never wants to see her again. And she replies she'll leave for today. He then watches the video of knocking out Taksu, so he quickly goes to confront him and threatens the teacher not to put those ideas in his head. And the video had gone so viral that Taksu lost several sponsors. So he decides to give an interview where he belittles Duman and speaks badly about him. In the end, he says that if he manages to win his first fight, he'll give Mateo a rematch. This makes Duman want to fight right away, but the master tells him he's still out of shape because he hasn't really fought in over 10 years. But suddenly Taksu's representative arrives and tells him that he got him a fight for the next day. But the master flatly refuses because he knows he's not ready yet. Meanwhile, Hera had gotten Daoman a job as a security guard while he was there. He sees a woman who stole a watch and later recognizes and tries to stop her when he returns to his post. But it turns out that she actually did have money. The manager makes Hera apologize since the lady claims she wasn't stealing the watch, just taking it to show her husband and planned to return to pay. She even had to kneel down so she wouldn't lose her job. Duman tells her not to humiliate herself since she did the right thing, then takes Hera and announces she's quitting. Then we see how Yejin kept flirting with Yugman. She had brought him food, and just then, Shoji had the same idea. She thinks both are cheerful, but she's too nice to see anything bad in it. But when they get home, she sees Yejin sent him many messages and invited him on a weekend date. using work as an excuse. When she asks about his Saturday plans, he says an intern gave him work and he'll be busy. But he doesn't tell her it was Yejin. Instead, he says it was another intern named Changho. She feels really bad because he lied to her and starts to doubt if there's really something going on between the two of them. The next day, he met with Mubin and Dogman. He's very jealous, so he says if she isn't back before 7, he'll call her father and say she's out with a man she barely knows. When Youngman gets to his office, Yejin admits she likes him and works there because of him. Before he can tell her he has a girlfriend, his boss interrupts them. Afterwards, Seolgi also arrives and catches them very close again. So, to make him jealous, she flirts with the intern Changho. Afterwards, we see how Tatsu had gone to Dogman's gym to bother him, and tells him to know his place, that everyone has a predestined fate and he should simply be grateful for what he has and not look for more, saying this to provoke him and to get him to accept the fight his manager proposed. It was all part of his plan from the beginning so that Tatsu wouldn't have to fight Dogman. When the time for the fight arrives, Dogman is defeated very easily. It turns out they had switched fighters. They had hired a professional fighter from Brazil who was an expert in jiu-jitsu, so he leaves him badly hurt. At the hospital, as Hera cries for Dogman, Hiron tells her to leave since the officer has arrived and she's no longer needed. Dogman tells her to leave and says he doesn't want to see her again, then takes Hera's hand to make his point clear. When he returns home, his teacher finds out and hugs him, grateful he's safe. He tells him that actually he won because with a single attack, he managed to break 2 of the fighter's ribs. In the morning, Seol-hee has to go to Dogman's nephew's birthday, and she had asked her mother to bring several gifts for her future family. When they arrive at the party, her mother tells her to go in alone because she didn't get ready for that when she goes in and shows the gifts she had brought. Dogman's family reacts badly because they don't like that kind of thing. His family takes advantage of her and makes Seol-hee do all the work. They make her clean and wash everything. She even has to pick up the trash. Her mother returned after forgetting the gift and overheard her boyfriend's family humiliating her for being short, not wealthy, and calling her the clingy girlfriend. That makes her mother very upset. At night, Youngman arrives and gets furious because he found Seol working as if she were an employee, and he scolds everyone for treating her so badly and tells them he won't forgive them for doing this. On the way home, Seol-hee finds out that her mother had gone back to the party, and she was the one who finished picking up the trash. She also sent Youngman a message, simply asking him to be kind to her daughter. This makes her very sad and humiliated. Then we see how Dogman couldn't get out of his head the way he had been deceived. So he goes to seek revenge. He finds the manager in Taksuo at a nightclub, but instead of confronting him, he thanks him. Because thanks to him, he was able to train with a professional Brazilian fighter, and that no matter what he does, in the end, he will get his rematch. Tanto Era had gone out with Mubin, and when they return home, she suddenly faints because she suffers from irritable bowel syndrome. She had been very stressed these days. Whenever she was with Mubin, she held in her gas, causing her to faint. When she wakes up, Mubin tells her that he was very worried because he is madly in love with her. But he regrets that because of him, she has to be so stressed. Ira, touched by his sweetness, tells him he gives her butterflies. At that moment, Dogman had found out that she was in the hospital. So he quickly goes to see her. But when he arrives, he finds her kissing someone. But instead of leaving and letting them be alone, he decides to go in and confront them. He tells them to just have a fling, so Hira, just to contradict him, says that from now on, they're officially a couple. When does he recover? Hera had applied to an academy to become a presenter, where Hiron was a teacher and a very important presenter. So Hira feels inferior. When she comes out, Mubin was waiting for her. He tells her the touch-ups he did look great and natural. So Hera takes advantage of this and teases her a little before leaving. On the other hand, Dogman finds out that the teacher hadn't been able to pay the rent. But this was also part of the manager's plan to leave Dogman without a gym to train in. Meanwhile, Hera was on her date with Mubin. They had gone to the hospital because he had an emergency. There she meets the doctors from last time and they apologize to her, telling her that now that she's dating Mubin, they should get along better. Hera is confused, and they use the moment to invite her to an event tomorrow where all the doctors will bring their partners. They tell her to leave since Mubin is always alone at night. When he takes her home, Dogman is waiting, mocking and angry because Mubin gave her shoes. Dogman approaches, telling her to go because the whole neighborhood is his. The next day, they tell Youngman that a very important food company wanted to do business with them and wanted him to be the manager. So he quickly tells Seolgi. And to celebrate, they both go into the meeting room to share some passionate kisses. But suddenly their co-workers arrive and Seolgi has to hide in the closet. She stays there for a few hours until Seolgi falls asleep and snores. So Youngman asks everyone to leave and take a break, but Jae didn't want to go and asks Youngman to talk about their relationship. Seolgi claims there's no relationship, but admits there is after revealing they kissed a few days ago. At the copier, Seolgi insists it never happened, which upsets her. At night, Ira wanted to surprise Mubin, so she goes to the doctor's event without being invited. But when she arrives, she finds him with another woman. It turned out to be Mubin's engagement party, as he was marrying the hospital owner's daughter, Ira. She asks him why he deceived her, and he replies that it was because he realized how much she meant to Youngman, because back in school he had stolen a girlfriend from him. She asks if he ever loved her. Seolgi says he did and suggests they could keep dating, that their relationship shouldn't end just because he's getting married and moving to Japan. But could he come back for her? From time to time, Era gets very upset with him and tells him she doesn't need his scraps or to share his love. Youngman had also found out about this, so he immediately goes to look for Era. And when he gets to her, he tells her that he'll make Mubin pay for what he did to her. Era tells him violence can't fix everything, but he replies that he won't lay a finger on him, that he'll use other methods to teach him a lesson. While Era comforts her, she asks him not to hug her anymore because it makes her heart race and feel unwell. And she openly tells him that she likes him. Youngman doesn't know how to respond, so he simply says nothing. The next day, both dressed up more than usual, and their friends notice and ask them why they're acting this way. They claim nothing is happening and it's just in their friends' minds. Youngman and Seolgi kept arguing about Yejin's kiss, especially since he didn't seem to care. When they get to the office, Seolgi decides to mark her territory and starts following him all around the company. She says it's time everyone knows they've been together 6 years and are getting married. But Seolgi's superior overheard and advised her that if she won't shout it out, she should at least act normal at lunch. It turns out that the same woman had been in a relationship with a coworker for 6 years and they were about to get married. They invite everyone to their wedding. The boss, as always, was bothering Seolgi, and to get them to stop bothering her, she says that she's also been in a relationship for 6 years and that she's also getting married soon. Youngman gets nervous and changes the subject. We then see how Seolgi used to join Youngman at his training. Seeing a teammate hit him hard, she challenges him to a match. She flirts until he agrees, then lands a strong punch on his nose when he lets his guard down. The punch was so strong that it made him cry. Afterwards, Seolgi decided to become friends with Yejin to tell her that Jungman is her boyfriend. While talking, Yejin says she has a boyfriend, and Seolgi gets excited thinking Yejin dislikes hers, and he doesn't know yet. That makes her feel sad because of how in love she is, since for Yejin, Jungman is her first great love. And since she thinks he doesn't have a girlfriend, Seolgi can't get mad at her. The next day, she had an interview to become an announcer and was very nervous since passing meant she would get the job. In the interview, she notices everyone else is younger, and as it ends, she realizes she's the only one not interviewed. The people in charge say she's not special, is at a disadvantage compared to other candidates, and that interviewing her would be a waste of time. She responds that even though she's older and hasn't studied abroad, she deserves a chance because not everyone has the same opportunities. Because while the others were studying, she had to work to support herself on her way home. Era feels very sad because she feels that all her hard work is useless. Ultimately, a resume is valued more than the individual. When it's time for the fight, Dogman's mother calls him to wish him good luck. But Dogman tells her that this time he trusts himself, that this time he won't give up. A minute before the fight, his opponent was changed. Now he has to fight his training partner, who was in a different category and had more experience than him. This was part of Taksu's plan to make him lose again. But Dogman doesn't feel bad or afraid during the fight. It seemed like his opponent was in control, but Dogman counterattacks and with a single move manages to knock him out. This leaves everyone surprised, but the attention goes to Hiram because it turns out she is a celebrity. But when she gets off the stage, the attention shifts back to Dogman because he completely ignores the celebrity Hiram. He immediately comforts Hera, who had come to see him. Panicked because she was afraid they would hurt her again when the fight was over. His master was even more excited than Dogman, so much so that he even started crying while hugging him. The landlady arrives and tells them she won't judge them, but they'd better get a room. In the morning, everyone pampered Dogman for his victory. Then Hera's father calls him to say he'll send him money because he found out he lost his job. She replies he shouldn't consider it as she's an adult and must handle her own life. Then, Dogman goes to collect the money for the fight and realizes it's more than he expected. So he decides to celebrate and sends money to his mother. He tells her that it's important for him that she accepts it because it's his first payment for doing something he likes. He also sends sneakers to his younger sister and pays his teacher for all the food he received at night. He gives things to his friends, but not to Hera. He had a special gift for her. He takes her for a walk and gives her a gold ring the next day. Everyone had important things to do, so they wished each other good luck and set off. Hera interviewed for a host position but was rejected again due to her resume and younger candidates. Upset, she calls Dogman and says she'll come to him since he's working in another city. He had to do a martial arts demonstration, so both of them will spend the night away from home. Meanwhile, Dogman had to close a key business deal when the businesswoman who requested him as manager for the new venture arrived. She was Yejin's mother, and they picked him simply because her daughter liked him. She recognizes them and says she saw them having dinner together when asked about their relationship. Seolgi wanted to be honest, but her nerves made her freeze. Dogman puts on his pants and tells everyone she's his girlfriend. They've been together 6 years and will marry soon. He warns Yejin not to cross the line with him. This makes him look good in front of his girlfriend. Meanwhile, at the festival, the host had too much to drink and was in really bad shape. Since she was the only one with experience, they asked her to replace the host. She went on stage with a great attitude and put on a show. Everyone starts singing and dancing, and the small performance turns into a big party. When it's over, she calls her father with the good news, and he says he'll visit her tomorrow. Then she starts celebrating with Dogman's friends. When they finish drinking, they decide to spend the night at the motel. We did it as they were about to sleep. Even with cockroaches in the room, it was awful, but Dogman couldn't. He comes in crying and tells her he can't go back because he's too scared. And since they both had to sleep together, they started drinking. In the morning, someone knocks on the door. It was Hera's father, and he caught them red-handed. Dogman tries to escape, but the man tells him not to even think about it. When he shuts the door, Hera's father beats him, but Dogman insists nothing happened between them. Even on a deserted island, he would still see her, only as a friend. This makes him even angrier, and he asks, what's wrong with his daughter? So Dogman doesn't know what to say anymore. They attend the festival's second day with Hera's father recording this time. But Hera's expression changes when she sees Dogman's friend. It turns out that he used to harass her and left her with a lot of trauma, so she didn't like having him around. Meanwhile, Youngman and Seolgi had gone to visit their parents. Then they have dinner with university classmates, where one announces he will soon marry another classmate because he had recently been promoted. Heading home, Seolgi tells him he's been very serious today and suspects it's because he's jealous. His co-worker got a promotion and he didn't, but he replies that it has nothing to do with it. She says she'd still happily marry him even if he keeps his current position. This upsets him further, and he tells her he's unhappy with his life and can't settle for simple things as she does. So Seolgi tells him that she feels how he's changing. And he responds that people have to change, that they can't stay the same for so many years. Back at the festival, we see how Hera was getting ready to rehearse. She arrives and tells her to leave because now she will be the host. All because she can't stand to see her happy. She becomes very sad and quickly leads her father away. He says he doesn't care and came to see her. It doesn't matter whether she's on stage. That makes her even sadder, and she tells him to leave right now. But before he goes, he tells her not to cry because bad people are everywhere. And that stage is too small for her because her father knows her talent and tells her not to settle for less. It's time to grow and she can go wherever she wants. This comforts Hera, and he tells her that next time she'll be on a much bigger stage and that when she calls him, he should go see her immediately. On the other hand, Youngman had a lot of doubts in his mind. At that moment, Yejin messaged him that she was waiting at the restaurant near his house and wouldn't leave until he came. When he arrives, Youngman sees Yejin acting the same way Seolgi did when they were getting to know each other. And this makes his doubts grow even more. At that moment, Seolgi arrives and had seen them. When Yejin goes home, Seolgi pulls her from the taxi and confronts her, telling her to forget about him. She answers that she won't because if he's really in love with her, he shouldn't have anything to worry about. But if his relationship is ending, she'll be there to go out with him. That makes her very sad. especially because she starts thinking about how much her boyfriend has changed since Yejin arrived. Meanwhile, Youngman was also having problems because Hairan still wanted to get back together with him. She tells him he can't be with Hira no matter how hard he tries and should focus on her instead. At that moment, Youngman tells her that all the love he felt for her has disappeared, and that now he has feelings for Hira. At that moment, she appears. Hairan tries to kiss him to make her jealous, but Youngman stops her and tells her she shouldn't do that. He leaves her, chases after Hera, surprises her with a kiss, and tells her he won't let her go again. Then he tells her that now that they've finally kissed, they're officially a couple because he doesn't like having flings. And finally, Youngman and Hera are officially a couple. In that moment, Hera admits he was always her first love but never told him. And Youngman tells her that if she had done it, he probably would have felt the same way. The next day, Hera and Youngman act strangely again to avoid attention. Later, they find out that Hiran was on top of Youngman, so now Hera feels uncomfortable. So Youngman tells her the truth, that he's now dating Hera and she shouldn't bother him. Later, Youngman asks her to go out for a walk, so Hera gets ready to go out. But Youngman gets jealous because he says she's too beautiful and showing too much. So he tells her to change her clothes and put on some pants. Then it's time to report the fight, but again, at the last moment, they change her opponent. Now she will fight against the master's second disciple, who had also been bought by Taksu and his team. When Youngman talks to him, he learns he's actually sad about betraying them. But he had no other choice because his daughter has acute dermatitis and he needs the money to treat her. He wanted to stay with the master but chose to be a good father over a good disciple. The master confronts him and tells him that rivals don't talk when they are finished. Dogman tells his master he's dating Hera. At first he doesn't believe him and wonders if he's being forced or paying off a debt, but Dogman proves otherwise, and he eventually believes him. At night, Hera acted strangely because Dogman wouldn't take things further with her. She tells him that they've already been friends for 20 years, and that it's okay to skip some parts, and that it would be better to hurry certain things along. Dogman tries to take initiative, but Youngman interrupts and ruins the moment. The next day, everyone agrees to go to Dogman's fight because it was a very important fight for him. And since they're best friends, they'll be there to support him. When the time comes, they're very excited. Also, Hera had set her sights on a new job as the announcer for the fights. When it's time for the fight, Dogman's opponent is pretty good, but he's not on his level. He swiftly knocks him down and is about to finish him off. He pretends he did until in the end he wins by the judge's decision. And because of his mercy, people on social media started calling him the Octagon Waiter. After the fight, Hera wanted to pick up where they left off, but the landlady arrives and tells them not tonight, that it's better if they sleep separately. Later we find out that she has a son named Namil, and that she moved here because of him. Then we see how Seolgi and Youngman kept having problems. He was more distant and cold, and she just wanted to talk to him more. When she confronts him, she asks if this is just a phase or if it's the end of their relationship, because she began to feel more alone. Being with him, Youngman doesn't know how to respond and just apologizes, but that's not enough anymore. At night, Yejin called him again, but this time to ask for his help. There was an accident. A man had hit her, but since her camera was broken, it didn't record the incident. So the men only wanted money. Instead, Youngman offers them food and the men accept. She thanks him for being so kind and taking her home when they arrive at her building. She hurts her ankle, so Youngman takes her home, and as he was leaving, he sees that she couldn't carry some packages into her house. He also decides to help her. But when he's inside, her mother arrives and Youngman, very scared, doesn't know what to do, so she decides to hide him in her closet. Her mother just came to watch her soap opera, and when she finally left, Youngman had fallen asleep. In the morning, we find out that Seolgi knew Youngman had been with Yejin. Unable to take it anymore, she tells Hera everything happening between them. She gets upset and wants to teach him a lesson, but Dogman stops her, saying people understand each other by talking. They decide to look for him at Yejin's building. But Seolgi was afraid to go in, so they stay outside for quite a while until Seolgi wants to leave, because she's afraid that her suspicions might be true. Because according to her, all she has now is Youngman, and if she loses that, her life will have no meaning. Hera tells her not to be silly, that her life can't depend on other people, so she encourages her. And both of them enter the building, and as they were about to go up, they run into Youngman. And behind him appears Yejin with her sock. even though nothing had happened between the two of them. Seolgi's heart is already broken as she no longer trusts him. Since her arrival, she's only lied to him, so she decides to let him go. On the other hand, Taksu wanted to go back to his old ways and decides to play the victim with what happened with Dogman years ago. He tells the press the money he received for losing was a reward for his effort, not a bribe. Since then, he kept asking for more, so now he wants to fight Dogman to clear his name. Later, Dogman's father visits and immediately inspects and criticizes his entire house. He tells him to stop standing around and start working, and since he's getting older, he should hurry up and get married. Dogman says nobody wanted to marry someone homeless and full of doubts. His father again tells him to work. At his age, he owned a house and worked from sunrise to sunset to support his family. Dogman replies he doesn't want to live like him, as money was almost always scarce at home. He even had to give up his dream of going to the Olympics to earn money for his sister's surgery, since his parents didn't have enough money. Then we see how Dogman's father had gone to a bar to drink with his new boss, who treats him badly and tells him to give up his pride and work even harder. Dogman recalls being mistreated at his last job. For the first time, he considers how difficult it was for his father to raise him without money. When they find him, he says they should have a drink together. They go up to his private bar, and while they are drinking, they ask him what his dream was. He answers that he wanted to be a pilot because of a movie he saw when he was young. But his family didn't have enough money to send him to the Air Force Academy. When he learns this, Dogman feels more respect for his father, because he also had a dream and gave it up to be his father. Dogman promises him that one day he'll travel first class, the closest he can offer to a pilot's cabin. The next day, Dogman takes him to the gym where he sees how talented his son is, because the teacher said he's his best student. When they leave, he tells him he shouldn't live like him. It turns out he was angry with him because his son reminded him of himself when he was young. He thought he had stopped following his dreams because of that mistake he made in school. He tells him he's glad he's following his dream, that he'd work 20 more years if needed and keep supporting him, so he doesn't have to worry about money and should never give up until he succeeds. Then we see how Sol-hee had gone back to work even though he was sad. He then tells Yejin he's a bad person and didn't do this earlier because he felt sorry for her, because she didn't know that Young had a girlfriend. But now that she knows about their relationship, she has no excuse, and that the same thing happens to her. And if she goes out with him, she should remember that the only reason he paid attention to her is because she looks like Sol-hee. The next day, Young Man's mother had gone to visit him, and Sol-hee's mother had too. So when they leave, they run into each other and start talking about their children. They should arrange a dinner soon so both families can meet. Overwhelmed, Youngman tells her they already broke up and it was his fault. Youngman's mother realizes how much her son loves Sol-hee and asks him why they broke up. Youngman simply replies, he is trash. Meanwhile, Sol-hee's mother advises her to focus on herself and her own desires, that in the end, she is the queen of her own life. Suddenly, the landlady arrives and the lady recognizes her, but they both pretend not to know each other and continue on their way. They call Man's mother to say they saw Wonbo-hee. She becomes alarmed and quickly confronts her husband for not telling her he saw her where their son lives. He responds that he doesn't know what she means. She then calls Hera's father to say she saw that woman living near their children. Apparently, they have a history with her. Afterwards, we see how Man trains alone with his teacher. And he wasn't doing very well, to be honest, because he didn't know jujitsu either. Suddenly, a mysterious man enters the gym. It turns out he was the nephew of the Brazilian fighter who defeated Young Man. He felt really bad for accepting money from Taksu, so to regain his honor, he sent his nephew to train Young Man. How is Seol-hee recovering? And to do so, she decides to treat herself. While getting her nails done, she saw a coworker, and when she left, he began flirting with her. Young Man gets jealous when he sees them, so he goes out drinking with Yejin too. They say he approached her only because she reminds them of a young Seol-hee back when they first fell in love. Afterwards, Hera eats with Man and says she dislikes his intense training. But Man explains he wants to finish his 20s passionately. Hera behaves childishly to sway his decision. Young Man does the same, so both embarrass themselves in front of the Brazilian. Hera later tells him not to fight Taksu, since Taksu's greater experience could seriously hurt him, even if he has more talent. But Young Man tells her that he doesn't want to regret anything anymore. That ever since he lost that fight, he only remembers himself lying there on the floor. The next day, Hera had a new job interview to become the next mixed martial arts presenter. She was going to be the first female presenter in Korea. and she gives a wonderful presentation. But the people in charge aren't very convinced. So Hira tells them that if they don't give her the job, she'll apply to the competition, and they'll miss out on having the first female presenter in Korea. Afterwards, Hyeran wants the position back, but the representative thinks differently. He doesn't care about her celebrity status and believes talent matters more than a resume, so he asks her to audition. She refuses, feeling it's beneath her, and finally Hera gets the job she had always wanted. When she leaves, she finds out that Hyran isn't doing well at all, because her ex-family had used all their contacts to keep her from getting a job. So little by little, she was running out of money. Hera wants to help her, but she's still too proud. She gives the teacher a phone to keep, tells him it's very important and that soon she'll explain why. Then we see Hera crying over Dogman's upcoming fight, worried it will be hard for him and she doesn't want him hurt. He tells her he's waited over 10 years for this fight and there's no way he'll lose his long-awaited rematch. In the morning, Dogman wanted Yuman and Seolgi to reconcile, so he took him to breakfast at Hera's house as usual. Suddenly, Seolgi gets a notification. Apparently, there were people interested in her plum wine, but she didn't know what price to set, so Yuman has to help her. In the afternoon, it's finally time for the match, and she is now the announcer. The coach asks Dogman not to get injured, since this is the first of many professional fights, but Daksoon didn't think the same way. He knew he couldn't win, so he wants to end the fight as soon as possible. So the referee calls a draw following his manager's advice. During the fight, he punches Dogman, injuring him badly. The referee stops the match and calls it a draw. Dogman was bleeding, but Daksun was also injured. So when he left the octagon, he fainted and was rushed to the hospital. The master tells Dogman not to worry about him and to go to the hospital as well. He starts scolding him for wanting to keep fighting in that condition. But suddenly Dogman had to wait because he could no longer hear Hera's voice. He had lost his sense of hearing. This was due to Daksoon's illegal blow. When they arrive at the hospital, the doctor tells him that it's not as serious as it seems. It's just temporary damage. And soon he'll be able to hear again. But he has another contusion. And if he receives another strong impact in the same area, he could lose his hearing forever. This makes Hera very worried and she wants Dogman to stop fighting. On the other hand, Youngman and Seohee had their own problems. Everyone knew they had broken up. And Changho suddenly tries to flirt with Seohee. While they were eating, the oil splashes and Youngman jumps on top of Seohee so she doesn't get burned. When they get home, Seohee treats his wound. Then he says that she can date whoever she wants, that he will always be waiting for her anyway, and that if he doesn't marry her, he won't marry anyone. While Dogman was recovering, Hera made food for him, but he wouldn't get out of bed. And when Hera goes to work, the manager tells her that he has a surprise for her. Hera will be the next star of his television show, where she will have to interview the wrestlers during her first interview. She finds out that injuries in mixed martial arts are more common than she expected. When she gets home, Dogman finally rises because he can hear again. But Hera tells him to stop fighting because she's afraid something bad might happen to him. She warns him that if he returns to the octagon, she'll break up with him and end their friendship. Dogman tells her not to make him choose because he couldn't choose between the two of them. Later, while making dinner, Hera hears strange noises upstairs and fears Hyron has taken her own life, so she rushes to her house to help. When she goes in, it turns out to be a false alarm. She just wanted to change the light bulb, and that's when she finds out that Hyron didn't have any money because she refused her ex-husband's alimony. Since he had been so bad that she didn't want anything to do with him or his family, and she had rented that room because she couldn't afford anything better. The next day, we found out that Kyungku wanted to air an edited video of Dogman's fight on television, and he thought he was doing it to get revenge for the fight they had years ago. But Kyungku tells him that he's not the same as before, that the video is of their fight, but it's focused on the part where Tatsu lands an illegal blow. In addition, it will feature commentary from an expert on the subject. When it airs, everyone is surprised because they make Dogman look like the hero. Even his sister, who hadn't spoken to him since the fight, wants to visit. Later, Kyungku and Dogman resolve everything. He tells him he has a daughter, and a coworker recently harassed her, causing him to change his attitude, and he wants to be a better person and a better father. Afterward, Youngman's mother asks Seolgi why they broke up, and the lady feels identified because Youngman's father also cheated on her, and not with one, but with two women. Also, she apologizes to her and confesses that the reason she treated her badly was because she was jealous, since Youngman always put her first before his family. She tells her that if she reunites with her son, she'll never see her again, or have to attend family gatherings. Seolgi apologizes and says she doesn't think it'll happen. Later, we find out that the landlady is actually a former famous adult film actress. But that's not the most surprising part. She's also Era's mother. It turns out that many years ago when she had Era, she wanted to leave that life behind. But a reporter had aired a program exposing her past life. So, she had to make a decision for the sake of her daughter. She decided to go to Japan and asked her husband to tell her that she had died, so they wouldn't judge or criticize Era for her mother. Also, it turns out that his supposed son, Namil, is actually an adopted son since his mother had abandoned him. And since she lost a daughter, did she feel that they completed each other? Dogman's brother visits him and after 10 years finally speaks to him again. He asks him not to lose again since he had felt guilty about that defeat. He also gives him an album with photos he had collected over the years and tells him that she has always been a fan. When they go in, they see that the gym is doing great, since everyone wants to visit the place where the new mixed martial arts star trains. And because of the television show, Dogman had gained many sponsors. So his coach asks him if he will fight again, and Dogman gives his answer during an interview. Era realizes he prefers martial arts to being with her. Era replies that the time he got hurt, she was very worried the whole time. That's why she ends the relationship for her own well-being. Afterwards, we see how Youngman bought a new car and added some pink details so that Seolgi would feel comfortable. She tells him she doesn't want to go. And when Youngman wants to drive to work, it turns out he didn't know how to do it, so Seolgi has to help him again. Later, we see Era in the landlady's apartment. While there, she saw a teddy bear her mother made for her as a child. When she presses it, she hears her own voice and realizes the landlady is her mother. She goes into shock, so she decides to run out. We then see Hyran tell Youngman that she never waited for him when he went to the army. And she truly didn't. She waited for him for 2 years, and no one will ever love him more than she does. Youngman recalls how she cared for him after he learned Hyran was marrying. She slept with him and constantly watched over him, fearing he might take his own life at any moment. Out of spite and to let him go once and for all, Hyran tells him not to let her go since they complete each other and need each other. At night, the landlady's adopted son searches for the phone given to the teacher, thinking it contains money or something valuable. But when he checks, there are only photos of her 2 children. Disappointed but touched, he returns the phone to Era. She says she's not interested, but he explains her mother always cared for her and only left because she had no choice, not because she didn't love her. This makes her very doubtful, so she goes to ask her father. Her father tells her the whole truth and says that her mother was always present at the most important moments of her life. She always attended her events and performances. She also sent most of her money, 80 cents of every dollar she earned. She never saw any money, and her father admitted he barely earned anything from what her mother sent. He paid her school tuition and spent the rest fixing the messes she caused herself, since she was always getting into trouble. Does she finally understand and no longer hold a grudge against her mother? After Era found out the truth, her mother wanted to return to Japan. But Nami tells her to stay a little longer with Era, since he had her all to himself for many years, and Era didn't have that privilege, so to be fair, she should spend a little more time with her. Then, finally, comes the long-awaited rematch of Dogman, who represents the wrestlers but can't help getting nervous during the match. Taksu appears stronger now, taking control, but Dogman introduced a new style. When he takes him to the ground, he defeats him and finally wins the fight after 10 years. Everyone is excited and the master even cries with joy. But Era wasn't so happy because they didn't have a relationship anymore. When she interviews him, Dogman says he can't live without her. She's touched, but since they don't want them to be a couple, he proposes marriage. Era, confused, asks if he'll fight again, but Dogman says he'll always choose her. She then, Era, agrees to be his wife, and that's how this beautiful and funny drama ends. Seolgi and Uman decided to give themselves a new chance. Era became closer to her mother. Hiram finally let go of Dogman and Dogman. He didn't give up martial arts, he was just waiting to settle down with Era before returning to the octagon. Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the summary, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next summary.